The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
A noisy pour.
Was it a noisy pour?
Sam Couturi.
I tried to make it splash a little bit.
Well, hey, everybody.
It's an homage blanc kind of day.
That's a good thing, isn't it? No.
Yeah. We bottled this morning. Our last bottling of 22 and 23s was our 23 homage blanc and Viognier.
Good man. Cheers.
Thank God.
Yeah,
it's all over till next year.
Well, welcome everybody.
All 70 cases of it.
It's supposed to be the bomb.
We are indeed the Winemakers. I'm John Myers with Brian Casey and Sam Couturi today, and the one and only Barbara Gorder from not only the DTC Symposium as the keynote chair, but also from Undisclosed Location, which is an undisclosed location.
Where are you, Barbara?
Yeah.
Everybody loves the name. I actually took it off of Dick Cheney.
I like it.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Where do you think I got it from?
I don't know. Well, an undisclosed location, clearly.
Exactly. He used to use that all the time.
Right where he was.
Back in 2003 when I started the firm, that was an ongoing phrase in the media, and I thought it was a great
the
name
vice president and an undisclosed.
being able to operate remotely anywhere I wanted. So I saw ahead to see that you could actually do business from wherever you wanted it to be. And so I thought it was a good thing.
Well, welcome, Barbara. We also have
reporting live from an undisclosed location.
Baker from Cultivar Marketing. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, John.
I'm going to let you guys just rip on DTC and all the numbers and what's going on. So have fun. Thanks for coming on the show specifically. Nice to have you back.
Yeah, no, it's
good to see you.
I mean, I'm definitely a friend of the pod and a fan of everything that
friend
you guys
of the pod.
do. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to be here today with all of you.
Is this your first time actually on the show?
Yes, I've been off in the
You've been in the corner a lot.
I've been in the corner just coaching people.
You've been guiding from an undisclosed location.
And I thought it was maybe time that we could talk a little bit about wine marketing and what's going on. And because sometimes wine marketing is not exactly appreciated. So I thought we could bring a positive point of view because now's a time in the industry where we might need some more help with marketing more than ever and coming together as an industry. So,
well, it's a weird time in the wine business right now, right?
Yep. It's a weird time in the wine business, and we all have to come together to get more consumers, grow our market, introduce young people, and get people to try things. And I think that's a really important thing because we can't just continue to do the same thing over and over again. We have to try new stuff.
Keep digging the hole or get out. Give up the shovel and climb out.
Benjamin Franklin comes to mind.
There you go. So, Sam,
yes.
What has happened in the last 10 years in terms of trending that you see? And Barbara, you can answer the same thing. Brian, how did we get in this situation?
What has happened in the last 10 years?
Well, who took their foot off the gas, eye off the ball? What?
Well, I mean, I think that there's way more competition now than there ever was before. There's way more wineries.
Almost 12,000
in
the U.S.
And there's way more options for what you drink when you go, if you go to the grocery store, you go to Whole Foods, there's RTDs, there's hard kombucha, there's ciders, there's all these different
handcrafted spirits,
right?
Everywhere.
Alcoholic tea. Cannabis. Well, I argue vehemently that cannabis and alcohol aren't in competition, but in collaboration.
I would
that's
agree,
a mostly personal experience.
It's just on the expenditure. If you're gonna spend money from a pocketbook perspective, it's part of the category.
That it is.
Yeah.
I started in
share of pocketbook
with Jackson Family 20 plus years ago, heading up the very first. We called it CRM in those days, but it was really the DTC. I was ran a unit inside of Jackson Family that supported all of the brands, which at the time, it's really funny, we're only 7 of them. And we were responsible for creating DTC service options, wine processing,
Brian,
allocation letters.
Can we go back a step before that?
Yeah.
Because people who listen to the show and our customers here, the wineries that we've had on, take DTC so for granted. And I know we talk about this a lot when we're down at the Symposium, but what happened 20 years ago that a company like Jackson Family would be creating a DTC
I'll be
division,
very
right?
absolutely candid with you. They had a retreat, had a corporate retreat, and they were throwing stuff up on the board. They were doing the SWOT exercise, and this term came out, which they called it CRM in those days.
Customer
it wasn't CRM.
relationship management.
Management, which was really a more technical than it is today. And they said, we have to create a way to sell our wines direct that we don't do right now. So they created a brand new unit, which I headed up. And to your question, John, 20 years ago, we started a long cycle of growth. Every year was good news. Yeah. Every year was 2%, 3%. Until about 3 years ago. And who took their foot off the gas? I think that the industry took for granted that the car was going to keep running whether it had fuel in it or not, which, to my point and Barbara's point, that fuel is marketing. That fuel is good, old-fashioned promotion, marketing, and advertising.
But let's go back to the beginning when there was a change in the Supreme Court law.
Yeah, let's
start at the beginning.
Let's go to Granholm, because and that's what fuels 12,000 wineries, right? I mean, 25 years ago there was 15 wineries.
When I started, I was handed my map by Steve Gross at Wine Institute. It was 17 states that you could ship wine to, and they were all yellow. They were called the reciprocal states. And no offense to those states in the union, but they were not the most popular states for wine drinking, let's just say. And that's a better way of saying it than what I was going to say it. So Granholm hits in 2005, and it changes everything. I mean, suddenly we can now ship to places like Texas. And Texas, to their credit at the time, Governor Big Hair, never can remember his last name, but he had the big hair. He said, I'll never forget this. He says, we haven't got our tax and codes all ready yet. Y'all just ship it in and we'll work it out in post. We'll figure it out. And he let us start shipping to Texas before they even had the TABC DTC rules set up. And that changed everything.
Yeah. Texas is a big, they drink wine in Texas.
Yeah. Eventually New York came across, and this was another great story. Then Senator Hillary Clinton went to Governor Pataki, and she says, all those people that we're having court, those people who are getting wine in New Jersey and coming across, and you're fining and you're putting in jail, your judges, your business people, your entrepreneurs, I got a solution for you. And he goes, what is it? He goes, well, you should let them ship wine to New York. And he goes, why would I do that? And she goes, I have 187 million reasons why you should do that. And that's the tax revenue that you're losing right now by not doing it. And that was the persuasive argument for the longest time, was to convince states, hey, there's tax revenue here,
And I think it also goes to consumer choice, because I think that allowing great wines, and I'll say, Sam, you're like one of the people who's making great wine, but allowing your wine to be drunk in different places by people that come and visit you here in the Sonoma, and they live wherever, and you send it along. And so you don't have to drink what's on the bottom shelf of the grocery store. You can drink finer wines. You can drink really interesting choices. And that's what DTC is all about, is offering those choices to consumers.
We are now in a situation with the 47 states we can ship to where, it's almost like the job is done, but it's not, because now we have to go back and defend all the territory we've gained in those states, because WSWA and our friends in wholesale are trying to carve back those gains. So,
how so, Brian?
Well, they're trying to go to legislatures, and they're trying to put gallon caps on, and they're trying to create a new fulfillment warehouse tax that puts the fulfillment house, the 3PL, in the middle of the equation. And they're trying to obstruct as much as possible this beautiful supply chain that has been constructed over the last 20 years. So the DTC Wine Symposium, which Barbara and I have both worked on, I started it back in 18 years ago when it was first...
back in the 1800s?
Back in the 1800s when we first started doing symposiums. We are still raising money every year with that symposium to help fund advocacy efforts to fight the good fights in the states that we've technically won. I mean, we had Wisconsin for about a year was taken out of play, and now that's kind of been worked out. But that's all the advocacy efforts of folks like Wine Institute and Wine America, and the symposium that Barbara and I work on every year as volunteers. We raise a lot of money to help fund those efforts, and we're believers in the cause.
And so if I'm going to try and play kind of devil's advocate through the show, but if Hillary Clinton says you're getting tax dollars by us shipping wine in, why are these states then fighting to make it harder?
Well, they're being lobbied to make it harder
By
the WSWA.
Will you say that?
Distributors?
The Wholesale
Yeah.
Wine and Spirits Association.
Yeah,
Did I say that right?
that's exactly
Did I nail
right.
it? Yeah.
Well,
So
so-
you're taking
So that's why I talked about choice, because when you go to the grocery store, let's say in whatever state you're going to, you're going to have certain players that are going to be on the shelf, either in the grocery store or at the liquor store or wherever. And so in order to have some of the delicious products that are available here in Sonoma or Napa or wherever they come from, in order to offer those consumers that choice, that's what makes it important. So not only it supports the consumer in terms of giving you options, but it also supports the people who are smaller operations, the 3,000 case winery, the 5,000 case winery who don't have distribution. And so that's why it's important to...
So you're saying if someone wants to ship into one of those states, but they don't have a distributor like RNDC or Southern or one of those things, then those distributors want to fight those small guys coming in because they're not getting a piece of the pie.
Well, it's like it's competition.
No, I just want to make it clear so everyone
and
understands.
there's two things. This actually came from the DTC Symposium marketing materials that I've read in the last month or so, as the early bird pricing has been dropped and stuff like that. Did I'm going to say this right? Basically, like 25 years ago, there was the same number of distributors. There was basically, in the United States, one distributor for every winery there was in the United States, and now there's basically like 5 distributors.
It was about. I know this stat. It was
Okay.
about 1 in 3, and today it's 1 in 12.
1 in 12.
And the top 3 distributors control, in a majority of states, 67% of all wine sales. In some of those states, those top 3 control 90% of all sales. So there's less and less room in the distributor tier for new brands to come into. And you know, wine is a big business, right? And there's a lot of producers that make a lot of wine, but there's a lot of small producers that want to have a chance to put their stuff in front of a consumer. What's really a Pyrrhic victory to me with the wholesalers is that they fight us, but I've done a number of studies over the years and showing the relationship between DTC and wholesale. That average wine club member that a winery has, anywhere from 35 to 42% of their purchases are in traditional retail. They're buying in restaurant, they're buying in wine stores, they're buying in big box. They're not exclusive to the winery they're a club member of. So in effect, they're creating a brand awareness by being in a wine club and a recognition. The old story, you're at a restaurant, you open your list up, you're at a business thing, and hey, guess what? Oh, I'm in this club. We should try this wine. This would be a great idea. So wholesale and DTC actually are symbiotic. Yet the wholesalers want to still treat it like, you know, it's sharks and minnows.
Are they having any success at this?
I think the entire industry right now is in a state of change. And I think that people are looking for non-traditional ways. I would do a shout out to Tom Work, who does a lot of work and a lot of writing about this from a retailer standpoint and wanting to change the laws and making it more symbiotic, as Brian would talk about. And I think that's important because we're all in this together. And if we want to save the wine business, we need to expose consumers to more choices, not to less, right? And so that's important.
Why shouldn't a retailer who's got the buying power to have a lot of brands be able to ship those brands anywhere in the U.S.? Well, they can't. They're restricted from doing that. And that's what Tom Work fights, you know, is to open states up to retailers.
What are those restrictions that are still around?
There are laws that are set at the state level by the liquor commissions in each level that say that an outside retailer cannot ship into my state.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very, very limited universe, a footprint, if you will, of retailers that are states that are allowed to ship to. And again, it goes back to my reciprocal states thing back in 2004. They're not your primary
The other thing to think about
consumption states for alcohol.
The other thing that's important to think about is the history of distribution. Let's say after after Prohibition was over, the government had issues, and how are they going to sell wine? So they turned to people who were experts in, let's say, the transportation and the alcohol business.
Brought up mainly in Chicago during Prohibition, So
Well, they turned to people who, let's say, had trucks
Yeah,
and had
right,
expertise
maybe. Just-
and might know something about that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the antiquated laws actually extend from that
You
period
had to have
of
the
time.
states to support the repeal, and the states
Well-
said in exchange for the support, we don't want federal control of alcohol anymore, which had been in place in this country since its founding. And the state says, we want local control now. We'll help you.
Brian, I grew up in Iowa. Joan is from Pennsylvania. Both of those states had state liquor stores.
Yeah.
How attractive are those? It's like 1960s
still do.
communist
I know
buildings,
Pennsylvania
I
does.
mean,
They still do.
Pennsylvania is, from believe, is the largest purchaser of wine on the planet. Or at least it was for
LCBO in Canada, which is a province,
right,
is the
okay.
largest purchaser of beverage alcohol on the planet. PLCB is the largest single purchaser in the United States of alcohol,
Right.
and they're a state government.
Right.
There you go.
So anyway, so those things were put in place from a variety of different reasons. But anyway, so I think now we're having this conversation because it's a changing time. Wine's under fire, and it's under fire from a lot of different reasons. I think, we're positive, we're bullish on it, but I think there's a lot of the forces of neo-prohibition. Shout out to Felicity Carter, who's been an incredible journalist and has been covering this topic.
Fighting the good fight.
Fighting the good fight in a lot of different ways, and the regulations and all of the different things. And
Will you expand on that a little bit? Because I don't think, unless you're in this stuff every day like we are.
sure.
And maybe you're paying attention, you see the news where the dietary recommendations are 0 alcohol and things like that. What is that coming from, and what is the
Well, look back
point
to,
of it?
Look back to when did wine get a huge bump? Wine got a huge bump when the 60 Minutes show
Right, the French conundrum or whatever.
talked about
French
how,
Paradox, 1991.
and so that came out, and all of a sudden there was a bump in terms of wine sales. That was tremendous, and it followed an upward curve. Now, WHO has made recommendations.
World Health Organization.
Has made recommendations about the consumption of alcohol that a lot of people disagree with those findings, and there's a lot of different studies that discuss it. But Brian,
Well, there's also, you got to understand, there's a temperance movement that has been alive since alcohol was being made, right? There's always been temperance.
And you hear that, but around here we don't really
Yeah.
feel it. So
because that movement is primarily in Europe.
yeah,
And-
So who is the mouthpiece for a lot of organizations such as Movendi, which you've probably never heard of Movendi. Movendi is this organization, this nonprofit with what looks like a very small budget that has been advocating abstinence for the longest time since they were founded back in the 1870s. They got their moment in the sun when the Volstead Act was passed, and then they lost it when the 21st Amendment repealed that. Well, they're back,
right.
and they're back in force.
And there's forces in the United States too. I went to school in Evanston, Illinois, where the Women's Christian Temperance
Northwestern.
Union
Mm-hmm.
was a very powerful force, including when and how you could consume alcohol. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation has actually contributed $265 million to the Temperance Union. Forces of temperance in the United States.
You still have dry counties in Texas and dry counties in Oklahoma and Connecticut, believe it or not. Oklahoma, only a year and a half ago, for the first time ever, passed a law that allowed wine to be sold in a grocery store. Up until a year and a half ago,
Colorado just did that too, right?
you had
That's
to
right.
you had to go to a package store to buy your alcohol. And the funny story about that, having lived in Tulsa for a brief period of time, beer used to be stacked on the floor of these stores outside of coolers because they didn't want you buying cold beer. Under the assumption, of course, that if you bought a cold beer, you'd be inclined to drink it on the way home.
no,
Now, you think about the person that would do that. Do you think they care if the beer is cold?
Yeah.
So that you have local temperance movements that have been going on in this country in pockets, in counties and cities that have been going on since the country was founded.
Blue laws in Massachusetts and state.
God.
That was like when I was growing up and going to Cape Cod, that was
You
always the way, you couldn't buy alcohol on Sundays. So it's much more.
You couldn't buy a lot of stuff on Sundays in Iowa when I was a kid.
The
Yeah,
fact
they
of
had
the
blue
matter
laws.
is
That's it.
that we here in California, we hear, especially in Sonoma County, I've talked to people and I've talked about this problem, and then they go, oh, it's not serious. Oh, never mind. Oh, that's just going to pass. There was a great book that I read when I first moved to Sonoma County that was about the Italian and German immigrants, and it was called When the Rivers Ran Red. And it was about all these people out here in the 19th century who were growing table grapes and making wine and doing it for their families and selling a little bit. And they were making, wines, for the church. And they were shocked when Prohibition went into effect. They couldn't believe that people in Congress would actually pass laws against the consumption of alcohol, because it was part of their family culture. It was part of their cuisine. And so that's why Brian and I, one of the reasons why we're here today is to talk about this, but also to talk about some solutions. So just know that the forces of this are well-funded, they're serious, and it's been going on for a while. So I think
This is why you don't take your eye off the ball and your foot off the gas. Yeah,
And to
that's
that
the
point
idea.
about foot off the gas, I don't think the wine industry ever really understood or tried to look at themselves as a packaged good. Both of us come from different industries. I came from the travel industry. Barbara came from big advertising. I walked into the wine business 20 years ago, as I said, working for Jackson Family, which was very modern and advanced at the time in terms of tool set. But the industry as a whole, I took a step 10 years backwards in time in marketing and advertising tools I'd had in travel industry, right? I mean, the fact that you had to create a CRM group in 2004 in the wine industry when travel had been doing it since the internet was basically first up and running in 91.
Since Al Gore invented the internet.
Hilton.com registered in June of 1991.
right.
And the guy that did it, Bruce Rosenberg, told Conrad Hilton at the time, he said, you know what? You're going to Baron Hilton, you're going to have more reservations on your on this online website thing than you're going to have through travel agents one day. And they laughed at him, and they still gave him the money to do it. And lo and behold, wine industry was barely online when I came into it. So, but foot off the gas, the industry's never marketed and advertised. It's never gotten together, and people have never said, we have to treat this like a consumer package good.
It's a $4.1 billion channel for the DTC in the United States. That gives you
And what's the overall wine market then?
73, $74 billion a year.
And,
Yeah, that's the
and
overall
only
wine.
all up.
only four is DTC.
Given the fact that it's
Wow.
given the fact that it's only been this many years,
Yeah.
and given the fact
It's not
that
that mature.
it's actually not a very mature.
What kind of terrible corkscrew did we give these people, Brian? What is that shit?
Mine got lost on Vinyl Sunday, and so now I'm like struggling.
I think he's going to get it though.
Yeah, I think
you
he's
know?
gonna get.
I mean, I think it's kind of good. It
And they only spilled a little bit.
Santa Maria.
He didn't. It didn't even go. But he pulled a button off his shirt doing it. So
So I'm gonna take a left turn here for a minute, and I brought this wine for a reason. Shout out to Jason Haas.
That's what we're here for, left turns, Barbara.
Okay,
There's no right turns.
as long as they're left, that's fine.
on brand.
But Tablas
Oh,
Creek,
let's Tablas Creek first.
we're gonna have this. It's a 2021 Côte de Tablas, and it's a shout out to Jason because I have worked with Jason on the DTC Wine Symposium for a long time. He's been an advocate for alternative packaging, which has been embraced here at Winery 16600, and I hope to see more of that. But my journey to wine was straight through Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and his family's connection there. I was 18 years old, and someone took me to Châteauneuf-du-Pape into a 2,000-year-old wine cave, and I said, ain't this cool?
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up here. So thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
My
Thanks for all you do.
my journey to wine started with buying my first real wine. I lived in Manhattan Beach in the day and lived across the street from Trader Joe's No. 3. I walked in and I bought a bottle of 85 Vichon, which was a vineyard in Napa that is part of Beckstoffer now.
I remember that.
Remember Vichon? Yeah. And I got it. I got 3 bottles. They were $9. I'll never forget this. And I took one home and I had it that night. And it was an aha moment. It's what I tell people is my aha wine moment. And I went back the next day and I said, oh, I got to buy some more of that wine. And he goes, what wine? And I said, Vichon. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, oh, it was right over there. He looks at me, he goes, you're not real familiar with our business model here, are you? And I said, no. And he explained it. And he says, it's in and out. So if you got it, you got it, but it ain't coming back. Huh. So this wine that I brought from Grape Culture is Oakview Vineyard. It's a little bit of Petit Verdot with 100% cab, 295 cases, about 18 to 22 months in new and neutral. And it's a couple of producers, Colin Craner and Craig Plouffe, who make this over in Napa. Bootstrapped guys, no tech money behind them, no big trustafarian fortune to support it, just good old-fashioned winemaking.
But, we listen to your show, and we feel like
it's not just Bart's mom. Thank God.
No, I know, right? Shout out to Bart's mom.
Yeah, shout out Bart's mom.
But I think that making wine is one thing, selling it's another.
Yep.
And it's important to understand that.
That's the fourth element of the winemakers, right? Yeah, there was the wine drinker, which you need,
right,
John, and you had the wine grower, which I guess is me.
You are.
And then you had Bart the winemaker,
right?
And the fourth element was the somm, the wine.
You're putting this all on me.
Yeah. Yes, it's all in the entirety of
everything.
This $71 billion industry. Brian rests on those shoulders.
Big shoulders.
Thank God. But that's, and I say this all the time, that a wine isn't really made until it's sold. If it's just sitting in your warehouse or your barrels, it doesn't really exist yet in the world, right? Until it's on somebody's shelf in their package store, liquor store, fine wine store, or in, your wine fridge or your cellar at home, does it really exist? Does a bear shit in the woods? Really,
that's right.
What good does it do? Other than inventory, that you can borrow against or something, wine doesn't exist until it's in the consumer's hand.
Absolutely. So let's take that left turn for just another minute.
Okay.
And let's talk about language a little bit, because I think there are really interesting things about sales and language and approachability that we all need to learn. And Brian, you've been instrumental for me, and you, Sam, have been instrumental to me. You told me about graham cracker notes. That's so cool. I was like, yeah.
What was that? What was that one?
Walla Walla.
It was something you were giving your daughter, Althea,
and
time, I think.
And Brian, you've taught me a lot about that. But I think that approachability of language. Some of you used to be the gatekeeper, but you're not like that, and you're better than that. And I think that we all have the example now of Tim Walz, who took it's the end of democracy into weird, right? It's that language vernacular that we have to bring to our customers right now, and making it approachable and beautiful for them to understand.
When I first met Barbara at the wine symposium 15 years ago, when I was teaching her WOT tasting notes, the two that reminded her that she stuck with you forever are, what are the two notes that you always remember that I taught you?
Diaper and lead pencil. Why do I want to drink that? Help me understand. No one in Procter & Gamble or any other, CPG organization would ever try and sell anything to anybody. That would not happen.
Lead pencil makes sense. I understand lead pencil.
You might understand it, but that's not really helping you sell it, is it?
I contend that tasting notes in general don't help us sell wine.
I agree with that.
No.
You've
Forest floor.
Right? You come in here, there's not a tasting note on our menu.
No.
And I instruct, I don't know how well they listen, but our tasting house staff not to engage. Right. Or at least not to start the conversation with, you'll taste raspberry and camphor and bullshit.
But I've heard Brian detail that a million times.
It's an important thing to be able to talk about, but a consumer, and I think this is what Barbara's getting towards. You smell something, and if you don't smell that, and I've said this 1,000 times on the show, if you don't taste it or smell it the way it's written down on the page in front of you, or somebody is telling you it's supposed to taste and smell like, you either think that there's something wrong with you,
right,
or the wine,
right,
and those are both bad places.
And you're on your back
and you're not going to buy it.
You've got the consumer. So when we would divide, when I was at Montelena for years, we used to divide up all of our consumers and do lots of research.
Just drop the Montelena.
Yeah, did you know Steve?
Okay?
Well,
keep going,
Mr. Spurrier.
To Steve,
Spurrier.
Steve.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
We used to divide consumers up, and the vast majority of people were people that were interested enough in wine. Not quite enophiles, but they were interested enough to want to be there to learn something. That was about 60%. The dirt and acid crowd, that really care about the notes and care about pH and care about things like that, that was about 2%.
Yeah.
And I had to always make sure that my team understood, unless someone has said to you specifically, I want to know more about this thing, talk to them one-on-one. Don't assume that the rest of their family or their guests want to understand the role of acid in aging. Just
in the development of the winemaker,
the level that they want to be at.
You're always the one who's saying we don't do tasting notes. I mean,
You're looking at me?
yeah. I mean, I think that's great, Brian.
I think we meet people where they are here, that if people want to come in and their focus is finding wines that are farmed organically, if it's finding a unique tribe that they want to belong to, which exists here, if they want to.
And that is the key to actual selling success, finding a unique tribe.
Yeah. But we all have the education to talk about malolactic fermentation and all those different things, but it's definitely not what we start off with. It's always farming.
Why the common denominator? Why does this make better wine? Why is this
right.
better wine?
Well, and then about the family, I think people want to know who's making a product that they're buying. It's very different. I don't know who's making wine at a big winery anymore. I mean, we are in a unique position because we do this show and we live here, but I think it's odd to live somewhere else in the country and go pick out a wine based on a label.
But there are people that do
100%.
it, and there's also different ways to sell wine. I think if you have as you do here with your dad, and organic farming as being your key thing that you want to talk about, that's fantastic. But there are other things that you can talk about.
Elaborate on that.
Yes, let's dig into your initiative in that conversation.
Yeah.
Well, and can I say that number one, the wine has to be good. It has to be delicious.
Yes.
That's like, if the wine wasn't delicious, I don't have a job here. There's no point in me talking about anything else.
Right.
Well, you also wouldn't have taken the job here if it wasn't delicious.
This is true.
But that's also about what you buy, whether you're buying in the grocery store or the drugstore or whatever. So when I first moved here 15 years ago, I coined a phrase called guide dog truck.
Wait, what?
Guide dog truck.
Guide dog truck. And so I looked across at different
different
people's winery websites, their
media.
efforts, what was the nascency of social media at the time. And what was common amongst over 90% of all of the brands was there was a guy. He usually was wearing a plaid shirt, but not always. Sometimes he was with his wife.
Rarely.
There was
More like his dog.
There was always a dog.
Yeah.
Not always a wife. Sometimes it was like a golden retriever, a German shepherd, or a Labrador retriever, but that was generally in those areas. And there was always a truck. Maybe it was a big F-150 that was like shiny and black.
Maybe a 53 Chevy.
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
And the variation is, of course, family dog truck.
That is
when the whole family's involved.
Right. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of ways in, just like when you see things on advertisements with brands that you identify with. So there's a lot. There's more than family. There's more than what you're selling in order to do that. And that's a really important point, because I think that not enough people have tried that. If you look at somebody, Tom Wark actually wrote a great article about Yellowstone, which was very funny, where he was talking about how different people in Yellowstone, they would
use beverage alcohol
and what it stands for. It was a great article. But the point is that they all come together around wine at the table when they're all trying to make a point. Right. That's the wine is the come together moment. But the point is that young people can get into music, and they can associate wine with music. They can find different social media points. They can find different things in pop culture. It doesn't have to be the family. It doesn't have to be the guide dog truck. Yeah. I just think that there's a lot of hesitancy about going away from guide dog truck even today.
So we want to create an initiative called Pass My Glass, which raises the awareness of the brand of the beverage called wine. And we put together a whole program that we want to get the industry behind, to lock arms on, with a genuine advertising program behind it that is broadcast television.
Right.
Cool.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about that when you guys were talking earlier, that I remember as a kid seeing commercials on TV for wine, but I don't know that maybe once in a while see something that's
Who did Orson Welles do?
Right.
Getting drunk.
Sell no wine before it's time.
And then
Sell no wine before it's time.
And then, smaller guys, there's no way for you to, purchase a commercial or something like that.
It's called Hulu, and you can be on for $500.
Cable streaming.
Not only that,
OTT and
but
CTV.
look at the Pork Council, the other white meat,
Right.
how they advertise, and you can
Avocados.
and you can
almonds,
you can tap
milk.
into that national effort and be part of it, sponsoring whatever mentions. It's a
what's
wide open area.
But what those were what were called USDA checkoff campaigns. So back in the day, I worked at Leo Burnett on Beef It's What's for Dinner. And back in those days, that was a $40 million investment. Now, today, with the democratization of the internet and OTT and CTV as media sources, we can get down to the specific zip code in terms of household income. We can do DMAs like San Francisco or the Bay Area, Los Angeles, Temecula, and get down on it where people actually want to buy wine. The point is that what we're trying to do is get people to consider it as a beverage choice.
Yep.
And that is what the industry has yet to do. Because I don't know. I mean, I respect Rob McMillan and what he has to say, but he does 500 surveys a year to 12,000 wineries and then draws some conclusions. So while there are pain points in the industry right now, just because we all agree that there are pain points, we need to make it better, and we need to make it from an industry. So there's a lot of different ways to support the cause, and we'll put it in the show notes, but it's a co-op advertising campaign.
We're looking for support from the industry in California first to start, and then if it rolls and it works, then we'll go across the country with it.
And the point is that it's not like just putting it up on there and praying for it. It's actually we're able to show return on investment. So the internet has changed things. I think there was a time, as we were referring to, where you were talking about Orson Welles or, Bartles and James or other things. I think there was a really negative, especially for $20 plus bottles of wine. It's like, I'm going to do great wine and people will come and drink it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're there anymore. I think we have to toot our own horn. We have to talk about what's in it for the consumer. Why are they going to wine, for here, why are you going to want Rhone varietals? Why is that interesting? What's interesting about that? I mean, you need to intrigue people. And the thing about it is, and I said this when Jason and I did this, it's like, I have come to love the wine industry like I love the advertising industry because it's filled with offbeat characters. And it's people who have an amazing and tremendous story to tell. And your podcast has people who are chemistry majors and English majors and into poetry. You had Ada Limon on, which was super cool.
That was my all-time favorite show. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Which one?
It's an amazing. I was the poet laureate.
Right.
She was amazing. But the point is that unless we communicate this to the broader crux of people through some kind of broadcast that is respectful of the quirkiness and the unique nature of wine, and help other people go, why do I want to drink wine? It's like, if I'm a Gen Z person, it's like, Bordeaux is like what my dad drinks when he comes home from golf. We need to be inclusive and do that. So
as my son said the first time he tasted Bordeaux was, Dad, it's like warm felt. It's like,
which can be good or bad.
Oh yeah, to him it was not.
And diapers and pencil lead.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, it tastes like diapers.
What is the unifying message or in general sort of the creative inspiration? Because
the focus of the sale.
From our standpoint, like in the wine industry, the reason my guide dog truck is everywhere is because when you're in the wine industry, guide dog truck is everywhere.
Look at Mark Pope. He invented that character of the guy with his three-legged dog tripod and his 53 Chevy truck running up and down Napa Valley, finding those best deals for you in the Bounty Hunter catalog.
That's a time-honored trope, all right. Time for something a little fresh.
So what is that?
So,
What's
so
it look like? Tell me. Come on, creative.
Okay,
Let's
so
go.
the point is that I was having a conversation with Isis Daniel, the millennial Psalm, And she came out to visit me about 2.5 years ago, and we were sitting down talking.
So you're supposed to come on the show, but everybody got COVID or something.
Everybody
right?
got COVID.
Yeah.
It was like I had a super spreader event at my house, and 15 out of the 30 people got. Yeah,
how much fun?
Good times.
Glad
so much for safety. Anywho, but she was talking about how she had this idea about pass my glass. And we were talking about inclusivity in the wine business in general, and about, it was new to see new faces, people of color, different kinds of folks. This was all very fresh. And I said, that's a line. I said, pass my glass is a line, because it talks about, it's a call to action. So John, you will appreciate what a bar call is. Pass my glass, a bar call, right? But it also is about, so it can be talking about wine and soft drinks, or wine and coffee, because there's people that don't drink. And I think we want to be inclusive of those folks. Mm-hmm. And we also want to be inclusive of more people. We want to have like all kinds of people involved in this effort. And I think that's what's essential. And that inclusivity is something that she inspired me to do. So.
Right.
What do the visuals look like on this? I'm seeing I'd like to buy the World of Coke at Echelon on the coast.
With
all these different people happy drinking wine.
I think you look at James Joyner's book, and he's got some weird shots of people in the wine business. I think celebrating the uniqueness, not Guide Dog Truck, and all of those people. I'm thinking about Coral Wang. I'm thinking about like crazy people, guys I've met in Napa. I'm thinking about your dad, Phil Couturier. I'm thinking about leadership and how broad that is. And those are the people from a portraiture standpoint that they're really true to the wine business. And those are the people that we want to represent it, not something that's like an artificial concept that we're going to put it on the grocery store. Because, and in all fairness, I've worked for a lot of those brands. I just think that they're two different business models. I have respect for both of them, but it's time for the direct-to-consumer folks to step up and say who they are collectively, and to show what that lifestyle is. Because I think that it also goes to wine tourism. I mean, Brian, you know the numbers on how far down is wine tourism in Sonoma County down? 20%, something like that?
They're double digits right now. Yeah. But that's also the whole North Coast. I mean, you've got
Mendocino.
I'm seeing Hardy Wallace.
Hardy Wallace is he's a perfect character. He's a ball of joy.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful person.
He's visual.
But there's just so many wonderful people, and I think that people want to be a part of, to what you said, Brian, people want to be a part of that tribe. Yeah. People want to be a part of people who are cool and different and not Guide Dog Trucks. They don't want to be gatekeep. They want to know that the business is inclusive of them.
You mentioned Andy Beckstoffer once, and Andy was the one who told us we're going to have to retrain all the tourists because they think
he's a genius.
A good-looking vineyard is one with strips of death underneath it where they spray because it keeps it clean, right?
Not the intel inside.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the idea here is, there is a different side to it. You can see both sides. Seriously. I can see Andy's point and yours. You're really trying to market. You have to re-educate the consumer. So, from that, education is one of the hardest things to do in advertising communication. Right?
Yes, but I think that the nice folks at Promontory who are selling bottles at $850 a bottle don't need my help.
But we've also got a wonderful beverage that has an 8,000-year history, going back to whether you call it Georgia or Armenia or wherever the border was drawn, that they found those giant vessels.
The Caucasus.
The Caucasus, right? Yeah. Let's go with that. You've got a beverage that has been associated with culture and with sociability. In ways, and I'll be candid, that the other beverage alcohols are not. Now, RTDs are on the rise. They're great to take to the soccer game, right? They're
37% year over year.
But is it necessarily what you want to serve at Thanksgiving? It's wine has got a mantra about it, an edge that is been associated with people getting together with people, and that's why we want to have everybody pass my glass.
And it's better than hold my beer. It's the opposite of that. It's
very inviting. You can't have my Bud Light. Brian, I think that that's one of the things that actually holds us back, though, because just saving wine for the Thanksgiving table or your special occasion makes it less accessible. And I think that, the reason that the RTDs are kicking our ass is that it can go places and doesn't have to have the pomp and circumstance associated with it. And that's, what drives us putting wine in cans, the bag and box movement.
I do not disagree with that. I agree with that.
Kind of like take some of that back, that like this can also be more casual in our seriousness, right?
And I should have been more explanatory. Thanksgiving was the celebratory, but wine is the only beverage that has really always been associated with a meal.
Right.
So everybody eats.
Right.
And to your point, packaging is critical in making it accessible. And as Jason Toblis proved with his famous rosé box, that they handmade them because they couldn't afford the machine because the run was so small, and they sold out in 4 hours or something like that. Yeah. I totally agree with that. We need to be more accessible.
Dottie and John did a great thing a few years ago when they did open that bottle night.
Open that bottle night.
That was, I think, and I think that needs to be resuscitated.
Agreed.
In the industry, because I think that it's like, it can't just be I got a promotion or it's Thanksgiving. It's Friday and I had a hard week and I'm gonna.
You don't even have to have a hard week.
Right.
It's just use it.
Tuesday.
Open it up, baby. Yeah.
And the good news is there are efforts in place right now besides what we're doing. I mean, Come Over October, which is an effort that Karen McNeil is a part of, and Gino Colangelo. To counter candidly Sober October, and efforts by the Wine Institute will be coming out early next year, also to create a positioning for the beverage wine with social and cultural background. Right, we want to do the same kind of thing, but we want to give you something back in return. Is we're going to give you some advertising ROI for your investment. Besides holding hands and saying we did this together, here's actually some benefit.
Kumbaya.
From this program, because we're marketers, we're advertising people.
We have to. I mean, you have to go mass. It's like we all know people, and the people who come here, and I don't know, Sam, how many? Jasmine knows the number, but how many people have I brought through here?
We track it. You're one of our bigger mavens, for sure. One or two. But you and Kevin Burns' girlfriends are the highest numbers.
But
Excellent.
But the point is it can't just be 1-to-1. It has to be mass in order to be successful, and we want to make everybody successful.
What's your next step then?
Well, hold on. I want to know, how do you keep like you said, Promontory doesn't need your help selling their wine, but if you're offering something, how do you keep? What's the threshold? Do you say to Jackson family, sorry, this program's not for you? Or
not the intention behind her comment. It was the promontories of the world that have $850 wines with exclusive mailing lists, and they're selling everything they make. This may not be as a program that they need from a marketing advertising standpoint, but it's a program they need as a member of the wine industry to hold hands together.
What's then because they're larger, have more money, have more brand ambassadors, strategists, marketing people, they're going to have more time to spend getting in front of you to get more of your time on the campaign, right? Whereas someone, let's say Sam, try and track him down on a Tuesday. Do you know what I'm saying? You're talking about a national campaign, but how do you keep the little guys involved in that, in some sort of balance?
Right. So there's different levels of contribution from a grassroots perspective.
Okay, here we go.
3 different tiers.
3 different tiers.
Okay.
Right. So it's like small producers can come on in, and we can show your logo. You're part of the team. It's $2,500. Right. So I was talking to this is another left turn, sorry. But I talk to people all the time about their marketing efforts, and especially small producers, many of whom are personal friends of mine and show up at my house on a regular basis. And when I hear how much money they put into talk, and they put into different kinds of their small efforts, but they add up to a lot of money. And not only that, but quite frankly, sometimes analytics. I talk to people all the time who are really small producers, and they have all these complicated analytics, and then they don't do anything with the numbers. I think it's great if you want to get into analytics, but if you're so small that you're spending money from a subscription model standpoint, and you're not really looking at it, you should do what Gary Vaynerchuk does. And what he does is he puts up 3 social media campaigns. He sees what he gets on organic, which is between 7 to 10% of his traffic, and then he puts money behind that. He doesn't need complicated analytics. So my point is that, if Promontory wants to be part of the team, certainly I would welcome their participation.
They'll get benefit.
But what they will do on OTT and CTV will be it'll show, and then you'll be able to go with a QR code, and you'll be able to say, for the top people, you can book an appointment or you can sell wine there. So it's all done through basically a page, which is how if you watch YouTube, that's how it's getting done.
I'm sure you guys
will you explain those acronyms for me real quick? The OT, what is the one?
OTT is over the top television.
Okay, what does that mean?
It just means that it's not broadcast television. So if you're watching NBC and you're watching the Olympics, that just comes into you and everybody else who has some kind of a cable program. What happened during COVID was that streaming. So if you're a gamer, or if you're into watching HGTV or whatever your predilection,
Peacock,
watch, and basically you can charge much more minimally for that. But you can also on the back end, you can get down and
target to the 200 zip block.
Target to those people who are specifically going to be able to afford your wine and are going to be interested and would be in the Bay Area.
Sight, motion, and sound, as some aspects of social media, has always been the most effective way to get a message across. Sight, motion, and sound. That's what we used to call TV in the old days, right? Versus radio, versus print. Sight, motion, and sound is now at an affordable level, and I'm going to apologize in advance to you guys and your audience to use this example, but in the old days in media, we fired a shotgun and hoped we sprayed and prayed. Today, we can fire a sniper rifle, and we can target our consumer in a very positive manner with a message that they are susceptible and aware of once they receive it, because they're looking for a message like that.
They're people who are actually regular wine drinkers. Yep. They're not people who, over 30% of the United States doesn't drink at any level. You're not going for those people.
Yeah.
So what do the storyboards look like so far?
Well, if somebody wants to go, there'll be a deck, and you can see it in the show notes. It's radio. It's a little hard.
Sight, motion, and sound. Sight, motion, and sound.
Happy to walk anybody through.
You know what?
Can I go back to something that you said earlier? And this is, where I struggle with this. Because for us, and obviously we could do better with more reach, but we're super successful with the one-on-one, with the club member brings in their friends when they're in town, and that's how we grow it with, forgive the pun, but super organically and super personally. And I just, how does that scale? How do you, because, and then the people who come here have this like sort of really deep, intense personal connection to what we're doing because of the way that they're introduced to it. How do you scale that vibe? And maybe this goes to what John's question about the story was. How does it look to scale that vibe and introduce us as an industry at that level of like
Here's
personalness?
The thing that's really important is like you have people like me who love you and love your wines. But what I want to bring in is the people who I don't know. I want to scale your audience.
Right.
So I think that more people deserve to know about your wines. I think that what the wine industry in general has to do is bring more people under the tent. And that's young people. That's people who are like, oh, I'm more of a beer drinker. I mean, it's like you've got to convince people. And so that's who those people are. And that's why. I talk to people who shall remain nameless, but I talk to people who have gone through weekends in Sonoma Valley this summer and haven't had a single guest. And I have,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. They're people we know.
Yeah.
So my point is that how can we bring those people back to wine and back to Sonoma County? I think that you've done a brilliant job at, between the Grateful Dead and the music and the art and all of that. You know who your tribe is. But there are people who are not as lucky as you are and not as talented. And we need to help those folks, because if we don't bring in more audiences, the industry will not do well. And we want to help the industry. I mean, that's the ticket.
We've got some good headwinds blowing at us, but at the end of the day, volume is down in the wine industry, but value is up.
Right.
I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah,
but,
that's an
the
amazing
wine
percent.
industry has never looked at value, and that's revenue. But I call it value Always has been focused on cases. But in reality, you've got a 3.5% to 4% decline in U.S., Europe, and global wine, but you've got a value increase of 58% over 6 years from 2018 to 2023. So we're doing a good job. I mean, prices are going up and people are still buying the product. You've also got this rather interesting new partnership going on in the wine business with two very, very, very large companies who partnered with two very, very large sports entertainment mega complexes.
Right.
Let's leave it at that. They're going to raise a level of awareness by just those relationships and those sponsorships. They're going to raise a level of awareness about wine.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Good, bad, or indifferent, but we're going to have again, sorry for the analogy, but the big guns firing over the top of America saying,
I just want to talk about guns.
No, it's just
guy, dog, truck, gun.
This all sounds familiar.
They're going to raise a level with whatever products they're going to feature in those famous.
Can I get a glass of
events.
wine at a Warriors game? Or
Of course you can.
Giants?
Of course you can. Absolutely.
I believe Highway 12 pours at the Giants games.
That's correct.
Paul Justo.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right.
The question is that, I mean, and I think this is the challenge, right? What you guys are doing here in Winery 16600 is you're pouring handmade organic wines.
Mm-hmm.
That's like it's like me buying a Chanel dress, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can go and
So
get
you're saying we should raise our prices?
Yes, Sam. Raise your prices.
Leaving money on the table, Sam.
No, but my point is that I can go to the grocery store and I can get a dress, but it's not going to be like this dress. And I can go to the Warriors game, but I'm not going to get that, which leads you back to DTC. So the point is that how can you get more and better wine in different places? And that's the question, and that loops all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, where how are you going to increase that? Because Sam, you might have to make more wine.
And you're looking purely at television. Yes.
Yes. Well, it's
no print.
It's television. It's not print, but there will be some PR behind it, as well as limited social.
Yeah.
But it's really the core of the investment that we get from a winery is it goes into the broadcast.
Yeah, it goes into media.
Goes into media, and yeah.
And you're talking about buying Hulu and this and that. What are your demographics there that you're targeting?
35 to 60.
And they are watching?
Well, you want people who have a household income of over $150,000 in San Francisco DMA, LA DMA, and San Diego DMA,
and several other variables that sort that audience down.
Right.
Makes us understand that they are inclined to drink wine. So I can't tell you yet.
How else are they divvying that up? How do you tell if they're inclined to?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's what I was asked to. What does the consumer who's out there who isn't buying wine or not buying enough wine or the right wine yet look like? And what is, what's persuading them to come over to our side?
So first of all, you want to talk about the dark arts. We're going to talk about third party credit card data.
Yeah.
And a lot comes out.
We know
of that.
what people spend.
We know how people spend their money.
We can target down to the body.
And so you can do that. But I think that you have to think about this more like a consumer packaged good. And I know people in the wine industry, whenever I say consumer packaged good, they flinch a little. But
what is it?
There's just a flinch here.
What's a consumer packaged good?
Toothpaste.
Okay.
Laundry cereal,
Tide.
juice.
Stick to you buy at the grocery store.
Anything
you buy.
Anything made by P&G.
Okay.
Right.
Needs
But
to
the
be
point
promoted.
is that what has happened is we are out of the consideration set. We are not. I mean, it's like what you guys were talking about. It's like we're in the consideration set for Thanksgiving, and I'm going to think about what kind of Pinot or what kind of Grenache I'm going to serve at Thanksgiving.
There you go.
Shannon.
But, okay,
Got Shannon.
and Shannon. But the point is that how am I going to convince people to go out and make it a subscription model, or go out and buy a wine club, or buy or have, I mean,
Get it shipped to their house.
Get it shipped to their house wherever they are. I mean, everybody sitting at this table has, I guarantee you, has wine that is in their pantry, in their kitchen. This is not the same in Ohio. Although maybe in Cleveland, I don't know. But the point is that it's like what we want is for people to have those wines, have them on hand, and open them as like, oh, do you want a beer? Do you want some wine? Do you want a cocktail? Do you want a mocktail? Just get us placed into the consideration set, because right now we're not there.
Right.
We're only with our people who, Brian did the math for me one time about how many people are actually active wine drinkers in the United States.
And this number, by the way, is based on looking at data, including people who abstain, people who drink wine, and it's the definition of regularly, which is once a week.
Yeah. So you and Lily Halstead are a little bit off.
We're a little off because Lily's Halstead is drink once a month.
But it's between 11 and 20 million people in the United States.
Total.
That's your market.
That's your market.
And that's not a lot of folks. So
and you have 12,000 wineries.
But he's also not selling $3.99 toothpaste. He's selling a $60 bottle of wine.
But John, that's a very good point. The category that has been hit the hardest in the downturn that we've seen has been under $12 a bottle.
Right.
Those wines are in decline, double digit. Now, there is a value argument that could be made if you look at the metrics. It says those people are no longer buying down here because they've traded up here.
Yes.
To the $12 to $25 category. Because we're seeing more value, more dollars, but we're not seeing the volume on the bottom. That's an argument that could be made statistically.
Yes.
So maybe we are getting people to aspire up.
But there are fewer of those people. So thus back to the Big Ten conversation, where we want to bring more young people and more people in to make it part of the consideration set. And I mean, people who have bought those cheaper wineries, I think it's a Kohl's, it's a Sears, it's a real estate play.
Bogle Chardonnay during the pandemic, top selling wine, according to one of our friends who was stocking shelves. Yep. Which would probably fit in that category. So you're saying the wine industry as a whole, you want those wines there.
Absolutely.
Because that's an introductory, or it keeps people on a regular.
You have to have entry level.
Right.
Wonderful article I read today.
Gallo Hardy Burgundy.
That's what I started with.
California Coolers.
Yeah.
Bartles and James.
Bartles and James. Yeah. We thank you for your support.
Yeah.
I said a guy in a truck with a dog. Literally.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
As
they had a guy in a truck.
It all comes back around. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. As the youngest person at the table, and part of this targeted consideration set, I find that price range to be the most substitutable.
Which price?
That the lower, the part that the
sub $12.
The sub $12.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
If you're consuming at a casual sub $12 kind of level, quality wise, flavor wise, there's a lot of things out there that get you more bang for the buck. And I don't mean like level of intoxication. I mean, you can get a 4-pack of fairly interesting cider. Yeah. Or you can, for the same prices, you can get a really uninteresting bottle of California Pinot Noir.
That is correct.
And I think that's a huge challenge that we have.
That said, what I will say in counter to that is that I've seen Gen Z women who have some very fancy handbags and don't necessarily have the jobs that might support that. Fair. Because they save up for it. Right. I think that generation knows value when they see it, much more so than my own generation, and they're willing to save for it. And I'm gonna buy that, handbag something that I really want, right, even though it's $400, and that I might not have the job to support that.
But to Sam's point, way back at the beginning of the show, my son's 31 years old. He's in the restaurant business in San Francisco, and he and his friends are consumers of beverage alcohol.
Right. On a regular basis.
He will save up, and he will save up to buy, when he can get it, the bottle of Pappy, because he and his friends know that they can share that bottle over many, many weeks, if not months. And he does the math for me, and he says, that same cost, Dad, into my expensive bottle of wine, I know that's pretty much going to be gone at the end of that session, that meal, right? And I can't argue with that kind of thinking, is that, you're drinking a little half-ounce shot or ounce shot at a time of a $300 whiskey, but you're sharing it with friends. He's 31 years old. And trust me, he was raised with wine at the table.
Right. Good wine at the table.
And my son is 35 and is an avid beer drinker. And, that's all that he really does. Yeah. He's not a wine consumer. If he's out for a meal, sushi, etc., he'll have sake.
Yeah.
But then you have to say, okay, so how do you identify? What are those vibes? What's that tribe I want to belong to, as Brian said? Who, how do I want to approach that? And that's why we have to make it cooler, because right now, wine's not really cool. It's not.
I think
toss around ideas on that.
I think the natural wine movement sort of took
helpful.
that spot.
Was helpful. Absolutely.
It was
helpful. It was
different, cooler packaging, more approachable, fun, not stuffy, interesting, playful. All of those things that young people, I think, were looking for. They kind of stepped in and took that.
Yeah, they did.
And on our podcast, we say it every week on the intro, demystifying wines every Friday.
Maybe we went too far, John.
Oh, you've gone too far this time, Myers.
I don't know if it's demystifying so much as just, it's like, because some of it's mystical and some of it's not. I think it's a sense of belonging. I think it's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of being part of a team and a family, and you choose. There's a lot of options here in Sonoma County.
Yeah.
You can be part of those things. So
it's weird, right? If there was 500 breweries in Sonoma and 500 breweries in Napa, or distilleries or something, that would seem odd to us, right?
There's 500 wineries in Sonoma and 500 in Napa.
Exactly right, Brian.
Right.
And
exactly right. I know exactly where you're going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
first of all, it would stink.
Well, then there's that, right? So I think that it's very important for us all to consider this all seriously. I think when we go, just to go back to the DTC show, so Susan Kostrava, who's the former editor
local fire department,
wine enthusiast, will be on, and we'll be offering
Sonoma Valley Volunteer Fire Department. We
An
love it.
authentic background noise.
Nice.
Brought to you by Sonoma Valley Fire.
They can do whatever they want as far as we're concerned.
Exactly. It's a firefighters. Shout out to those guys right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we're going to be talking about this in a broader sense at the DTC Wine Symposium for people who want to participate in terms of having messaging, because I don't want people to continue on the guide dog truck fashion.
Yeah.
January 21st to 23rd, Monterey Hyatt Regency.
Hey, baby, we're all
Next
going
to
to
the Del Monte
Monterey.
Golf.
Early bird pricing available now.
Early bird pricing available now. Call now, direct or collect.
Who is your target?
For
yours to sell the program.
35 to 60.
No. Who is our target?
Yeah.
Wineries of any size.
That's what I was going to say.
Wineries of any
size.
In California.
Where are you going to start?
We're going to start in California.
Yeah.
Size. You have to have a list of your top 10. Who are they?
We have.
We're number one, John.
Yeah.
I doubt that. You don't have enough money.
They are, because it's not just how much money people put into it, but we want people to tell their friends.
Okay. Do you want Constellation money?
I'd take it absolutely all day long
and help them say under $12 bottle category is sinking, so we can help here.
I'm into category growth. This is a category growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Sale. I don't really care. I care that people want to support the wine business.
Rising tide, right?
And
it's kind of that thinking.
The whole point. It's rising tide lifts all boats.
Project Wine lifting all boats. And so I want.
Thank you, Robert Mondavi.
Yeah, exactly.
And Barbara, when someone goes to the DTC Symposium, it can be a small winery like us, and it can be a larger winery, but there will be something for everyone. Yes. Because for us, we're looking at, you get someone in our door, we basically can
make the sale.
get them on board
Right.
with what we're doing here.
We've had executives from Gallo, from Terlato, from
Kendall Jackson.
Right.
Kendall Jackson, Purple Wine Group. We've had executives from large companies. We've had all the way down to the mom and pops. And
Is there anyone from Sonoma or Napa Visitors Bureau that gets somehow involved?
We do Napa Valley. Napa Valley Vintners is involved.
Okay.
And we have different people. And actually, we have a member.
Napa Valley Vendors is one of our sponsors.
Oh, great.
Show.
Exactly.
They're a huge
and
sponsor.
then Temecula for sure. We've
Right.
Patricia O'Brien has been enormous. And
We're going to draw every year. We've done this for 18 years. These numbers have grown, but last year we drew from 12 states, and we had 4 nations at the conference, in addition to the North Coast, right? But we had 12 states represented because that's the kind of content. We're the largest single educational show in the world for this specific sales channel, direct-to-consumer wine.
Wow.
There's nothing larger in the world than what we have produced. And the majority, more than 90% of all the money, goes back to Free the Grapes, a private, nonprofit 501c3
We like Free the Grapes, yeah.
who puts it back into advocacy efforts, as we talked about earlier, to make sure that we keep the lights on and the gates open in the states we want all of our wineries to ship to. So it's a wonderful, virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
Barbara, what do you need for a green light on this?
I'm going to put my phone number and my email and Brian's phone number and his email, and we're happy to walk anybody through it. Take the time. We're here for the industry.
Is this the first marketing
you guys
effort?
we're going to go.
We got the scoop, John.
You guys are this is how we're launching it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we are.
Monterey, Bart Hansen, Brian Casey, and John. We'll also be on MJ Taller and
Never heard of him.
Yeah, I know. And then,
Where's our glasses?
And Isis Daniel, the Millennial Psalm, will also be talking to us.
But to your
as well.
point, we did a lot of pre-work. We ran this by Sonoma County Vintners. We ran this by
We've had a lot of
wine
meetings.
growers. We ran this by some people at John Ash Resort. We ran it by several local Sonoma wineries. We've run it by the Wine Institute. We've gone each step of the way to get their thoughts as we've developed this to say, what do you think? And how can you help support us?
Yeah.
Any smoke screen objections that people are tossing up that just bullshit?
No.
Okay, good.
No, they just want to know what the ROI is and how the media works, and I'm happy to explain it to them. It's not.
Well, you have a deck here.
I do.
Everybody knows PowerPoint, right? And
sometimes
most people don't.
PowerPoint is a way to put your ideas in a very cohesive fashion and present them to other people and outline. Yeah. So, can you want to run through a little top of this that you were
I don't
presenting?
think that's really for this. I
want the goddamn creative. I want to see it. I want to see it.
So just so you know, John,
now,
bad guy.
by 3 o'clock.
Here's the deal.
I gotta go home.
Here's the deal. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to have 70 vintners sign on and address everybody's individual efforts. You're just going to have to trust me on this is the creative approach. This is the tagline, and this is where we're
what's
going.
for dinner.
Yeah.
You're the pro.
Exactly.
Believe me.
Exactly.
I've sold this stuff for years. I totally understand. No matter how beneficial it is to the client, you still have to sell it.
Well, hopefully that we can get something that's as imaginative as the vintners and the people that I love in this business.
Yeah. And who's doing the creative? You? Both?
That would be
both? Okay, great.
Yeah.
From an undisclosed location.
I'm the sales guy.
I like it.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll be working with James Joyner, Brig Bloomquist, Warren Lamb, and a variety of other talented creatives.
And now you're looking at James' photos as my visual. I'm seeing kind of a yuppie young kid, maybe 30 plus, working for an ad agency downtown Chicago, stopping at Sam's or Benny's on the way home. That's who I'm seeing buying this wine. All of it. I mean, even the $12 to the $50 to the $100 or $400, whatever, depending on whether or not they got a bonus that year. But, people who are who are professionals, they may be working at home, but on the other hand, this is what I saw in my mind. Correct me.
No, that's right. And we're hoping that he's bringing it home to share with his.
But James's photos are not of my guy. That's my point.
No, I don't really care about that guy. I mean, I want to sell to him, but I'm going to sell this lifestyle, not that guy. I mean, I grew up going to Sam's Liquors. That was a trip. There was a guy there that used to take me down to the basement, and he would show me like cases of like DRC, and really, I mean, I didn't even know what it was. It was all covered in dirt. But it was a
and John, that guy that you're talking about, when he comes here, he wants to be the guy that he sees.
He wants to be you,
of
Brian.
the James photo.
But to your point, John, I hope that he's buying that wine on the way home and taking it home to his younger partner and sharing it with him or her, and that they're both enjoying it.
Well, that's the idea.
And they're enjoying the beverage as part of a lifestyle that is what wine is all about. It's
making wine cool again.
All right. Where's the pushback?
I like that.
That's it
for me to digest.
Okay, that's what I want.
For me,
make wine cool.
And
again.
Bart Hansen's here, man.
Look, I mean,
I feel like wine.
Come on.
I feel like wine has been.
Who is
getting
this?
Cool.
Chenin Blanc maker Bart Hansen. I mean, it is getting cooler, but obviously it's not working fast enough because we have these industry-wide headwinds. And for me, my philosophy on this is obviously pretty simple, which is based against all the competition, from beer to spirits to RTDs, kombucha, cider, seltzer, the fucking scourge of the earth.
It's bad.
It's bad. The thing that wine has over all of those is that it's the closest beverage alcohol to the agricultural product that it came from.
Yeah.
And
maybe beer is a distant second, and spirits, cider might be probably the closest.
If I can get enough funding, I want to shoot this harvest. We'll see.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, because
it's coming fast.
I know
Let's get Barbara some funding because we're picking grapes.
I know, and it's a beautiful thing to see people work that hard to do what it is, and to get people to realize. I did a tagline for Brian a long time ago when he was working for Chateau Montelena, and it was a
second shout out.
A year in a glass, right?
A little startup over there in Napa, Chateau Montelena. They've never done
Small
anything.
family-run winery with a truck, couple of dogs,
They've definitely
a guy,
and they've definitely not been in movies. So that's
no. Sorry, we walked all over your tagline, Barbara. What was your tagline?
But tagline was a year in a glass, because it's like because this is a product that takes
a year
to make.
That's right.
And a lot of people.
And sometimes it takes more than 1 year to make. But I mean, it's like, but that's the point of it. It's like, it's not just kicking back with like a Bud Light and it's funny and we're all just, doing whatever. It's something that's more complex. And that's what people need to appreciate, but not feel guilty about. They need to feel joyful about. They need to feel good about. It's like, wow, how cool is that?
I mean, it is this really fine line of like being true to how complicated and complex and rare and vaunted wine is, but also making it approachable, right? I mean, that's the challenge here, is how do we keep it
real? I think real.
Yeah.
It's back to my weird example, right? It's like, it's vernacular people understand and identify with. Everybody wants to feel that. Everybody wants to be part of the club. Everybody wants to feel. When I come here, I feel at home. When I go to see Bart, I feel at home. It's like, these are people that I feel at home with. You want to extend that to your consumer, the people who aren't here, if you can.
Right.
Hard to do.
Yeah.
Nike did it. Apple did it. You can do it.
It's terrifying.
Do James Joyner's photos watch TV? And do they have disposable money? Do they have the income? The people in his book that you're talking about, those individuals that he's photographed, do they have money to go buy a lot of wine? Or does our yuppie kid in Chicago have more disposable income? So you really should target him. I mean, I'm just asking these questions. I'm not
I'm
connecting.
sorry, are you talking about the consumer? Or are you talking about
absolutely the consumer.
Okay, but the ad is not the consumer. The ad is the idea.
Okay, who are you talking?
I'm not depicting the consumer. I'm depicting the idea.
I'm depicting the consumer.
We're picking our consumer at a algorithmic media number crunching level to find the most likely proclivities of people that will purchase. Call to action, click on the QR code. What will they all look like? I can't tell you until we've done our first analysis of the first campaign. But we're going to the heart. We're targeting, as I said, like a sniper. We want that person. What color they are, what they buy, what their income is immaterial to me if they fit the demographic target and they are responding to what we are showing them. That's our consumer. But I can't tell
30% of all wine that's sold in the United States is sold in California. So it seems like a really good place to start.
Which we appreciate anyway because of shipping costs. We'd rather ship it to you.
Thank you for bringing it back
California.
to
You came and picked it up and bought more.
I mean, that'd be great too. And make wine cool again. Wine's already cool. So we just kind of have to make sure that people
but we have to remind
people.
the next generation, because remember, my generation is a trading out. We're the generation, the boomers, that helped create. And I want you to think about this. We're the generation that created tasting rooms.
Yeah,
there was a demand that we had when we came to visit, and people responded by building us first little barns and tables, and then eventually, like, some wineries, glass and steel. Right? Yeah. We are the generation that created the concept of the loyalty program, which is called the Wine Club. Our generation is a trading out.
Yeah.
So
we're retiring.
Right. And you're not restocking your cellars because you're drinking through your cellars.
And we're not in a position anymore, as more boomers move into retirement, to afford to be in, and let's just call it that exclusive high-end $5,000 a year wine club, right? You just can't do that anymore if you're not working full time.
And coming in knowing nothing about you were talking about, that was going to be my question, is this whole discussion having to do with a particular price range? Or that's what you're trying to figure out, is what people...
It's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah. No, it's everything. No, it's the beverage called wine. We want to promote brand wine as a beverage of choice for people's brand ladder.
But I think that it's really important, and I see this all the time in the wine business, is how people do their budget allocation for marketing. I have seen people build multi-million-dollar facilities and spend almost nothing for digital marketing. I have been a part of that meeting. I have seen people do things that you would never see, never in any other industry when you want to launch a brand. And so wine needs to start adhering to some of those best practices.
The average consumer can keep 7 different brands in their head at a time. That's called the brand ladder. It's an old book called Positioning, written by Trout and Rees. Okay,
I keep more.
One of my Bibles. And
you're not average. You're above average.
You want to be in the top 3. You want to be in the top 3. So when you're talking, I want to have beverage alcohol, we want wine to be one of the top 3 things they're thinking of. Because there's a lot of other choices, including things that aren't beverage alcohol, like cannabis, candidly. And I'm not saying cannabis is cannibalizing, but it is yet another choice that wasn't there 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
And now that you can go to a dispensary also.
And I think mushroom infusions are on the way too.
Yeah, they're selling it in the coffee down at Sunflower Cafe.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
Cool.
Just saying.
As in a threat to our democracy?
Definitely not a threat to the democracy. I'm not sure I want to do that with my coffee, but I might try. Anyway.
You can't take mushrooms all day if you don't start with your coffee, Barbara.
Well, that's my philosophy.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Sam,
Yeah. Well, thank you for tolerating two brand marketers.
We appreciate the chance.
Thanks
for letting us
to
launch
appear
with you guys.
Barbara, what have we not asked you?
John's new tagline.
What have we not asked you?
Yeah.
Oh, how people can get involved with the DTC Symposium.
So that's my question is, obviously, if you are a winery marketer, owner, winemaker, follow the show notes, get on board with the project.
Yep.
Go to the
www.unlo.com. You can go there and see Past My Glass and sign up and contact us. In the show notes, we'll actually give out our own cell phone numbers. And email addresses.
Mike Jones.
We'd love to talk to you.
And for the show itself, you can go to Free the Grapes.
Yes.
Or you can go to DTC WS Wine Symposium.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the question that I ask everybody when they're on our show at the symposium. For the 50% or whatever, because we don't do a very good job with our metrics, of our listeners who are not in the industry but are consumers. And they're obviously the unicorn consumers who are drinking wine on a regular basis and buying wine and joining
people
wine
in
clubs.
New Jersey, people in Louisiana.
What can they do to support these efforts? What can they do to keep the foot on the gas as far as the regulatory side, but from your specific project, is there a way for consumers to be involved and continue the efforts?
Helping the lobby group.
If a state is under siege and a consumer has not yet joined Free the Grapes in their state, that's the first thing I encourage them to do. Is to make sure you're on the mailing list, because as threats come up, they need to be able to respond as an average citizen and sign a petition, if you will. Right.
So for a consumer in a state like that who just walked in and wants to know how do they know they're under siege? How do they know?
Well, they need to sign up for freethegrapes.com.
Okay, so
they need to be on the mailing list. Yeah, and sometimes they'll just get notifications that say things are good. But sometimes they'll say, like happened in Wisconsin 2 years ago, hey, we've got a problem here. The legislature is now challenging.
Your legislators.
Yeah, supply pressure.
Because they're, talking about fulfillment houses and,
That's what we want to hear.
Consumers can keep buying the beverage wine. They can keep making wine cool and tell their friends it's cool. That's what they can do while we get something like this out there launched. And when they see it, they should click on our QR codes.
And see, as everybody's getting sicker and sicker and sicker of political bullshit this time of year, you can actually do something positive.
There we
You
go.
can go join Free the Grapes, understand what's going on. Everybody who listens is interested, whether
Yep.
they're
While
a
drinking
professional
a
or-
bottle of wine.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And buying more. It's a good thing.
Speaking as a cat lady and a postmenopausal woman, I'm celebrating politics.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, me too.
Drink some wine.
It actually, I've been listening to NPR for the first time in like 8 years in the last 2 weeks. Like I can stomach turning it back on again. Like it's shit that I actually want to hear again.
Yeah. It is.
There's a turn to joy and buy some wine so you can be joyous along with them.
Right. Stock up on sparkling wine, whether made in France or California.
Anywhere.
Because either you'll drink it to drown your sorrows or you'll drink it in celebration
It's
come
gonna be
November 5th.
celebration.
Right.
It's going to be a tsunami.
From your lips, John. God bless.
To Elvis's ears. There you go.
There we go.
All right.
So, well, hey, thanks so much for coming.
Yes.
Really,
Thanks for having us
seriously.
on. We appreciate it.
Don't
Much appreciated.
please make sure everybody can get what they need to educate themselves, and we'll follow up on this and see how you're doing.
Drink more good wine.
And when is
Wine is cool.
Do you have a launch date on this in mind?
2025, first Q1.
Okay,
Q1 25.
great. Oh, we'll look
It's
forward
coming.
to
It's
it.
coming to a Hulu ad near you.
I like it.
Betcha.
I like it.
Assuming you fit the demographic, which if you're listening to the show,
You do.
you probably fit the demographic.
Shout outs.
Shout outs. Well, if you haven't heard, the DTC Wine Symposium early birds pricing is available right now. Go to DTC Wine Symposium.
You are so nice to me.
It's mutual. Keep bringing all your friends who want to buy all our wine. We got a whole bunch of things happening dinner wise.
But one's getting close. So we're doing a dinner at the Fairmont under the water tower, which no one usually gets to see that portion of the hotel. It's kind of closed off most of the time. So it's really, it's kind of cool to be able to go in that. You're looking up at the water tower that everyone sees as they, even people who live in Agua Caliente or boys, they see the water
see them
tower
all
from
over
their
town,
house.
yeah.
So it's kind of
the Dave Finney dinner was unbelievable.
That's right. You have been to one of the dinners back there. So we're doing kind of a fun thing this year where we're partnering with Laurel Glen, another one of our partners where we're growing the grapes over there. So we're going to do, I don't think I've ever been to a winemaker dinner where you had 2 wineries that with every course, you're going to get a wine from each winery. So it'll be mirroring and juxtaposing and all kinds of fun stuff going on. Sam will be there talking about 16600, and then Bettina and her winemaker Ryan Randall is a Randall. I've never met him, so hopefully meet him that night. We'll be talking about the wines, and Chef Jen did a really nice menu. So anyway, long story short, you can go to Laurel Glen's website, purchase tickets right through there, or go on their Instagram account, hit their link tree, and tickets are for sale. And we kept the price really reasonable. It's $150 a person. So
it's like 4 courses.
4 courses.
4 courses plus like a little.
And we're going to do something fun as a final course. And then we're doing a little rosé kickoff at the beginning of it. But I mean, it's kind of like the kickoff to harvest. It's in a couple weeks. I know you guys are probably picking up at Sophie James already, but
as this show releases, the first Enterprise Vineyard grapes are being picked at Sophie James. Little Pinot Noir and Chardonnay for sparkling wine.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on.
Bart, any shout outs, buddy?
You got a dinner, right?
I do. Yes. Yeah. Look at this.
Is
I do
that
have
tonight?
a dinner. Ticket just in time. That's Barbara. I showed up to show up. I didn't show up to do shout outs.
I'm so glad you did.
Gosh darn it. Now you guys blew me.
And also, let it be known that knowing what we're talking about has never been a prerequisite for any of us on the show.
Right.
There is no script here.
October 22nd, I'm doing a winemaker dinner at the Glen Ellen Star.
Yeah. Oh, excellent.
Great place. I want to give a shout out to our friend of the pod, Chelsea Henderson, at Chelsea Writes. She just released her book, Glacial, The Inside Story of Climate Politics. She's going to be out in a couple months, and we're going to have her on the show. And sign up at the Tank. Sign up for reservations at the Tank, DaneCellars.com.
All righty. I guess we're done then. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara Gorder from
We're finished.
I love it. Just want to say it one more time. Undisclosed Location.
Always.
A marketing genius and ready to float all boats.
No one's ever said that to me, John.
I like it. And Brian, thanks for being with us again. Brian Baker you are Cultivar Marketing.
Thank you, John.
How did you get that name? Is it a guy's name or is it cultivation?
I snagged it a long time ago. I've had that name for 20 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Smart.
Well, excellent. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will talk to you next week.
Subscribe, review, tell your friends, even the ones that aren't cool, because maybe they'll get cool by drinking more wine.
Drinking wine, exactly.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Bye.